Hello and welcome to part 2 of the modeling series. I'm Raymond Gabriel, and in this part we will be creating this butterfly model with rigging and animation. I got the idea for this tutorial from a request I got in the comment section of part 1. You can check out part 1 from this link. For the next part of this series, I'll be choosing one of your 3D models requests in the comment section below. All the models I'll be creating in this series will be available on Blender Kit add-on. If you don't know what that is, it's a free add-on that comes with Blender with a massive library of models, textures, and sculpting brushes, ready to be used directly inside of Blender with just a simple drag and drop in your scenes. The monthly subscription they have will open up even more 3D models, including mine. This way you will be helping me and the add-on developers. You could also get the 3D models I create in my tutorials from my Patreon page. By joining, you will get instant access to all my 3D models and other helpful content. I want to thank all my patrons for their support. It's a great motivation to keep creating more tutorials. Without any further delay, let's get started. I'll be using this image as a reference for the model inside of Blender, and I will also be using it as a texture. I will be converting this image also to an opacity map like this one in GIMP. Let's do that right now. So first up, let's open up GIMP. I'm using version 2.1. Okay, now drag the image in GIMP like that. If you get this pop-up message, just click Don't Ask Me Again and press Convert. Alright, now I'll be using Photoshop shortcuts that I've installed inside of GIMP. That is not the default shortcuts in GIMP. So if you want to add these shortcuts, you can use a link in the description below to this page. You will be able to add the shortcuts of Photoshop to GIMP. I will also be using the tools from right here, so you don't have to use shortcuts. Okay, first thing we need to do is use the fuzzy select tool from here, or W if you're using the shortcuts, and then click once in the empty background right here. Now press Ctrl Shift I, and that will invert the selection, or from select here, press invert, and that will invert the selection as well. Okay, now from here, change the color to a fully black color, and then from here, keep pressing this tool until you see these two tools, gradient and bucket fill. Make sure you are on bucket fill, and then from here, press this plus icon to create a new layer, and then press inside of the selection, and that will make it fully black on the new layer right here. Okay, now if you press Ctrl D, that will remove the selection. You can also from select press here none, so you can deselect everything. Now from here press this eye icon to hide this layer, and then click once on this layer, so it's the active layer. Now press L to get the lasso tool from here, or free select tool. If you press Ctrl and your scroll mouse button, you will be able to zoom in and out of the image. Now I'm going to start tracing these orange parts right here. It's gonna take some time, so I will fast forward this part. Once you make a close selection like that, press enter, and that will confirm the selection. If you want to add to this selection, press the shift key. You will notice that there is now a plus sign beside the cursor. If you now click on your mouse, that will continue the selection and will add to it. Okay, once you close the selection, press enter. That will add this part as well. Keep doing that until you have covered all the orange parts. You can also press the backspace key. That will remove the points that you have just made if you want to adjust anything. Okay, when you're done selecting the orange parts, change the color right here to a gray color by typing here 50. Then press enter. In an opacity map, the black color means that it will be fully visible. A white color means that it will be fully invisible. A gray color will make it transparent. Press OK. Now select the bucket fill tool from here. Then make sure that you are on the layer that we just created. Select the eye icon to make it visible, and then click once in the selection. Okay. Now you can press Ctrl D to deselect everything, or from select here, press none. Okay, now the opacity map is ready. Let's export it out. From File, export as. I already have it exported. Make sure that you export it to .png format, so it will have the transparency of the background. If it is in JPG format, it will not contain the alpha channel, and we will not be able to use that inside of Blender. So make sure that it's in .png format. Okay, now that you have the texture maps ready, we can jump inside of Blender. I will also be providing these images from a link in the description below, so you can use it directly without having to do all the stuff we did in GIMP, and you can jump in Blender right away. Open up Blender, press A to select everything, press X to delete, then select delete. Alright, now select the butterfly image here, drag and drop it inside of Blender, press Alt R, Alt G, and that will snap it in the middle of the scene. Okay, press Shift A to get the add menu, then from mesh, select the plane, press G then Z to move it up a little, like that. Now you can go to the top view by pressing 7 on your numpad. You can also press the scroll button and move around. Then when you get to the top view, you can press Alt, and that will snap it to the top orthographic view. You can also use the menus from view, viewpoint. You can choose top from here. Okay, now let's start modeling the wings. Select the plane, press G to move it, put it around here, press S to scale it down, press G again, press R to rotate it, put it right here. Alright, now press Tab to go to edit mode, press 1 to go to vertex select mode. That will make you able to select the vertices. Select this vertex and put it right here, select this vertex and put it right here. Just this one a little bit. Okay, now press 2 to switch to edge select mode. Select this edge, then press E to extrude out another part. Now press S to scale it out like that, and press G to adjust it to the borders of the wing right here. Okay, now press E again, extrude another part, scale. Keep doing that until you've covered all the wing. Okay, now let's try and create these rounded parts right here. So select this vertex and put it right here. Select this vertex and put it right here. Okay, now select this edge, press E to extrude it out, then scale it like that. Select this one, extrude it out to create these rounded shapes. Now you can press Ctrl 1 and that will add a subdivision modifier. If you go right here, you will see that there is a subdivision modifier added. You can add it manually from here and select the subdivision modifier. You can change the levels to 2. I think 1 is good enough for now. Adjust some of the vertices so that the mesh is fitting with the reference behind it, because the subdivision modifier just shrinks the mesh a little bit. If you notice right here, you will see that this part has become rounded. I want this edge to be sharper. So to do that, you have to add a new edge by pressing Ctrl R. You'll see this yellow line. Click once and that will add a new edge. If you move your mouse, you'll be able to adjust the position of this edge. Move it until it's closer to the beginning of the first edge right here. Okay, now if you press Tab to go to object mode, you'll see that this part is now a little bit sharper. Let's do the same thing with the top wing here. Press Shift and right click to adjust the position of the 3D cursor. Press Shift A. From mesh, add a new plane. Scale it down and rotate it. Go through the same process we did for the lower wings. Press Ctrl 1 again to add the subdivision modifier. Adjust some of the vertices to better match the reference, like that. Also add an edge loop right here. Press Tab to go to edit mode, press G then Z to move it above the reference a little. Press Z and go to wireframe so you can see the reference behind. Press B for box select and select these two edges and try to move them. Select the other wing, do the same thing and put it right here. Now I think we're ready to move on to the body. Press Shift and right click, then press Shift A and add in a cube. Press S to scale it down to match the middle part of the body. Press G then Z and move it up like that. Okay, go back to top view, press tab to go to edit mode, Z and go to wireframe, press Alt A to deselect everything, press B for box select and select these two vertices. You'll see that the bottom ones have been selected as well because we are in wireframe mode. If you were in the solid shading right here, if you try to select the top vertices right here, you will find that the lower vertices have not been selected. So make sure if you are in orthographic view that you are in wireframe before you select the vertices. Now press E to extrude it out, scale it down, and match the head of the butterfly like here. Okay, select these vertices as well. Make sure that you have all 4 vertices selected. Scale it down, extrude. Okay, I think the body is good enough right now. So let's press Ctrl 1 to add a subdivision modifier. Change the level of the subdivision to 2 to make it more smoother. As you can see, the whole body has shrunk a little when we added the subdivision modifier. So go to edit mode by pressing tab, then press Alt S, and that will fatten it up a little bit like that. Press right click and select shade smooth to make the shape smoother. Okay, now select the wings. Go to this tab here. In the transform settings, you'll see that there is some rotation and scale applied on this mesh. We need to get all these rotation values to 0 and all the scale values to 1, so we don't have any problems with the mesh. To do that, select the upper wing and press shift and select the lower wing as well. Press Ctrl A to get the apply menu and select rotation and scale. You'll see that the rotation have now returned to 0 and the scale to 1. Okay, now press Shift D to duplicate these wings. Press X to move them on the X-axis. Now press left click to confirm the new position. Press Ctrl M to mirror them. Then press X to mirror them on the X-axis. Press G and adjust the position. You can also go to the lower wing right here and adjust the position of these vertices until they match the reference. Okay, let's model these as well. Press Shift and right click, add in a cube, scale it down until it's the size of these parts. Press G and Z and move it up like that. Press Tab to go to edit mode, go to wireframe, select these vertices and extrude them out to match the reference like that. Okay, now press Ctrl 1 to add a subdivision modifier. Right click, shade smooth. Also, let's fatten it up a little by going to edit mode and pressing Alt S. Maybe move these parts to match the reference. Go to wireframe, select these parts and try to match the reference a little bit. Press Z again and go to solid view. Press Shift D to duplicate this part and let's try to make the other one. Press Ctrl M, then press X, press R to rotate it and put it right here. Press Tab to go to edit mode, Z, then go to wireframe. Press B for box select. You can also just drag your mouse like that to make the box selection. I'm just used to the old shortcuts of Blender. Just press B and select these vertices and match the reference. Now we have these parts ready. All we need to model right now is the legs. So in this reference, we don't have any legs to match up to. Let's just select everything and move them up like that. You will find that I have a reference here that we can use for the legs. All these references again will be in the description below, so you can use them as well. Now drag this reference inside of Blender. Press Alt R, Alt G, so that it's in the middle of the scene. Press R, then X, and then 90. Press R, Z, 90. Press G and Y to move it on the Y axis a little. Let's just model the legs. So press Shift and right click. Press Shift A from mesh, add in a cube. press Z and go to wireframe, scale it down like that, rotate it. We'll just model one of them, this one is good enough, and then we'll duplicate them for the others. Press tab to go to edit mode, select these two, and start extruding out the shape of the leg. All we are using is R, S, and G to rotate, scale, and move these vertices as we are moving along. Make sure that the vertices are matching with these parts of the leg. It will really be very small, so it doesn't have to be that accurate, but try to do it if you can. If you press the period on your numpad, this will zoom in to the model. If you don't have a numpad, you can use the key beside the 1 on your keyboard, and that will get you this menu. You can just use the view selected, and that will zoom in to the object as well. Okay, press Z to go to solid view, select the leg, press G then X to move it forward a little. Press Ctrl 1 to add in a subdivision modifier, right click and then shade smooth. You'll see that some parts are a little bit sharper, so we need to make sure that these parts are sharp as well. So to do that, we will just add some more edge loops right here. For example, let's add an edge loop right here so that we can make it a little bit matching with the reference. Okay, now that we are done with the leg, let's just move it to the model. Go to the top view, press G and move it right here. Press G then Z to move it down. Go to the right orthographic or the side of the model like that, and then press rotate. I think it's a little bit big, so just scale it down a little. Press Shift D to duplicate it, then press X. Rotate it on the Z axis like that. We just need to match it with the reference here as much as possible. Press Shift D then Y. Rotate them on the Z axis by 180 degrees. Keep moving it until you have the shape that you want or the positioning that you want. Okay, I think it's good enough. Let's move on to texturing the model. Let's just select these two wings and push them up. These lower wings and push them down a little like that. Now to start texturing, we just need to UV unwrap these meshes so that the image can be placed on top of them. So let's just go to the corner right here until you see this white cross. Press and then drag to split the viewport into two parts, and then from here change it to UV editor. Alright, now if you select the upper wing, for example, then press tab, you'll see that it has a UV unwrapping right here, but it's not exactly in the same shape of the wing. So let's just unwrap it. Press U and then press unwrap. You should get something like that, which is the shape of the mesh. Make sure that you apply the rotation and scale as we said before, and the scale here is 1 and the rotation is 0. To do that, press Ctrl A and then press rotation and scale, because that will influence the shape of the UV right here when you do it. Let's select all these parts. Press tab to go to edit mode. Press A to select everything. U, then unwrap. It doesn't matter the positioning right now. We just need to unwrap them. Let's try and add the texture now. Go to the corner here and then split these viewport into two parts again. And then from here, change it to shader editor. Alright, press N to close the side panel and then go to the material tab right here. Press new to create a new material. Double click here and let's name this wings. You'll see these two nodes appear. Press this one. I'm using an add-on called Node Wrangler, which is an add-on that simplifies the creation of nodes. I can just press now Ctrl T and you will see that there's 3 more nodes appear. If you don't have the Node Wrangler enabled, you can enable it from Edit, Preference, and then go to the Add-ons tab, search for node, and then enable the node wrangler and save pref. You can also add these nodes manually by just pressing Shift A and just go to texture and choosing image texture, and you'll see that it's just like this one. Just delete this one, and from here press open, go to where you save the references, and then choose the diffuse texture right here. To see it in the viewport, we need to go to the material preview, so press Z and then go to material preview. Right now we are seeing the image on the mesh, but it's not exactly correct, so press tab to go to edit mode, zoom out in the UV editor. You'll see that the UV of the mesh is not in the correct position, so just rotate it, scale it down, and try to position it with the wing. You'll see that the scale is not exactly correct also, so to fix that we need to UV unwrap the mesh again. This time we'll be using another method, so go to the top view, press tab to go to edit mode, press U again, but instead of using the unwrap method, select the project from view, and that will project it exactly as you see it in the viewport in the correct proportions. Now you can just scale it out and match it with the wing right here. Okay, let's do the same thing for the other wings. You cannot see the image on the mesh yet because we don't have any material. So go to the material tab, and instead of adding a new material, use the drop down here and select the wings material that we just created. Now press tab to go to edit mode, press A to select everything, go to the top view, press U, and then select project from view. Press A to select the UV, scale it out until it's matching with the image like that. Let's do the same thing for these two as well. Make sure that you use the project from view method after you have applied the material. When I use the project from view before adding the material, it doesn't appear correctly in the UV editor. So just make sure that you apply the wings material before you UV unwrap the mesh. Okay, now as you can see, the UV unwrap is positioned somewhat correctly on the mesh, but there are some parts of the UV that are outside of the image, and it's going inside the alpha background. You can see that in the viewport as this black color right here. So to get rid of that, we need to tell Blender that the alpha channel needs to be transparent. Select this edge of the viewport and make it a little bit bigger. Let's just take the alpha output of the image and put it in the alpha input in the principled node right here. Okay, you'll see that it's still visible. Go to the material tab, go down until you see the settings options right here. Change the blend mode from opaque to alpha clip, and that should make the black color of the alpha channel transparent in the viewport. Let's move on to the body and try to unwrap it and texture it with this part of the image. As this part is not simple as the wings, it's made of a cube instead of a plane, we can just go to edit mode and then select project from view. It will not appear correctly. I will only be seeing the top face. I will not see the other faces on the side and at the bottom. So to be able to see all the sides of this cube appearing in the UV editor, we need to add something called UV seams. So to tell Blender where to cut the model and unwrap it. To add UV seams, you need to make a selection of edges. Press 2 to switch to edge select mode. Press Alt and hold it. Then select this edge, for example. Then press U. You'll see here mark seam, select that. Now this edge is marked as a seam. When we try to press A and then press U and selecting the normal unwrap method, you will see now that the cube has been unwrapped around this seam. Imagine it as a scissors going through this cube and unfolding it like that. That's not exactly what we want. We need to have all the sides of the cube appearing separately. So to do that, we just need to add more seams to the model. So press Alt A to deselect everything, press Alt and hold, then select this edge loop, press Alt and Shift, hold them both, then select this one as well to select multiple edge loops. Okay, make sure that you are in edge select mode, because if you are in vertex select, you'll see that it's selecting the faces as well, which will make a seam on those middle edges. We want it to be on the outer edges only. So just make sure that you are in edge select mode. Okay, now that we have these edges selected, press U, then mark seam. Now let's try to unwrap this mesh. Press U, then select unwrap. You'll see that it's still giving me the same shape. The reason for that is that we still have these polygons at the end of the mesh that needs more seams. Press 3 for face select. Select this face. Go to the other side, press Shift, then select the other face like that. Press U, then mark seam. That will add a seam to the whole polygon. Now select everything, press U, then unwrap one more time. Now you'll see that every side of the mesh has its own UV in the UV editor. Okay, that's perfect. What we need to do is adjust every part of this and put it on this part of the texture. To do that, let's just add the wings material from here. Select everything, move them away like that. Hover over one of them, then press L, and that should select this part of the UV. Press R to rotate it. Press S to scale it. And try adjusting it so it's in the part where the body is. You will need to adjust the UV vertex by vertex to get better result. So keep selecting these vertices and try matching it with the reference behind it. You'll see now that the bottom side is looking fine. The other side is still looking weird, so we'll just keep. To be able to see it easier, you can just press Shift H to isolate this part. You will see that the seam is a little bit visible, so to try to fix that, you can also press L in the viewport right here, and that will select only this part of the mesh. Make sure that these vertices are inside the image outline and it's not going outside to the alpha channel. Hover over this part and press L again and do the same thing. Make sure that these vertices are inside the image. Okay, for these two polygons as well, let's just select them and move them to the black part of the image. Maybe this one, move it to the orange part here. Let's try moving it to the end of the tail. Okay, I think it's looking much better. This part right here, you'll see that these lines are not matching. So just go to edit mode, press L on this part, and then select these two edges, for example, and move them on the y-axis like that until they match with the black stripes from the other side right here. Let's do the same thing for this polygon. Select these two and move them until they match with the upper one. Okay, let's move on to these two parts. First thing we need to do is select them both. Press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale so that the scale and rotation are at their default values. Let's try unwrapping them. Instead of using the method that we use with the body, with adding seams and all that stuff, we can use a faster method by pressing U and then Smart UV Project. Then press OK. That will essentially do the same thing we did with the body automatically, but UV seams will let you have more control over the UV. Let's just try and add the material on it right now. So go to the material tab and from here add the wings material. Press A in the viewport to select everything. Try to UV again, Smart UV Project. We could select each one of those and keep matching them with this part of the image, but that will take a very long time. So to make things faster, we can adjust them all at once. So just press A to select everything. Press 3 for face select in the UV editor. Make sure that you have this face as the active face. Now press U and then select follow active quads. You will get this pop-up menu. Press OK. That will make all the UVs match the active UV right here. Right now we'll be able to move them all together, scale it to match the length of this part. I think we have it the other way around, so rotate it like that. Press 1 for vertex select. Select these vertices and start rotating them and matching them with the image. Make them as small as possible so that they are inside this part of the image and not going to the alpha channel. I think it's looking good enough. It seems that this part is going outside to the alpha channel, so we can just select these vertices. To be able to sync between the UV editor and the 3D viewport, you can press this toggle. So when you make a selection in the 3D viewport, the selection will also be made here in the UV editor. So right now if we select this part, you'll see that it's corresponding to this part of the UV. We can now scale it down. Let's try and select these as well. We are trying to fix this part, which is going out to the alpha channel. Scale it down until it's not visible anymore. Just for time's sake, just delete this part and copy this one to the other side. Now let's move on to the legs. I think the legs should be a fully black color. Let's try that. Press new. Rename this material to black and change the base color to a black one, like that. Select these 3 legs, then select the black one last. Press Ctrl L, then select materials. That will apply the material of the first leg to the other legs as well. As you can see, the colors of the image on the model is a little bit washed out, and it's not exactly the same as in the reference image. We can fix that with a couple of ways. First one is you go to Render tab, and then from the color management, you can change the view transform from filmic to standard. We could also change the roughness from here so that it's not reflective. If you make it 0, you'll see that it's looking like glass material, and fully rough, it will not be reflective at all, which will make it more realistic. You could also change the specular slider here to 0, and that will make it matching exactly with the image. Let's add the opacity map that we have created at the beginning of this tutorial. So to do that, go to the shader editor, make out some space, move away the material output like that, go to where you saved the opacity map, drag and drop it in the shader editor. Okay, now press Shift A, and then from shader, add in a mix shader, then press Shift A again, from shader, add in a transparent shader. Right? Let's connect these up. Take the output of the principal BSDF and put it in one of the shader of the mix shader, and take the output of the transparent and put it here. Then take the output of the opacity map and put it in the factor of the mix shader. Let's get the opacity map from here. What will the mix shader do is that it will mix between the texture of the butterfly here and the transparent shader using the colors of the opacity map. So the black color of the opacity map will be shown as the texture of the butterfly, and the gray color will be shown as the transparent shader here. Let's test that out. Take the output of the mix shader and put it in the material output, like that. You will not notice any difference yet, because we still need to go to the material tab here, go down, and change the blend mode from alpha clip to alpha blend. Okay, let's test if it's working. Add in a cube. As you can see, you are able to see the cube from behind the orange parts in the texture. Okay, I think we still need to add some detail to the texture here by adding some pump to the texture. To do that, it's pretty simple. Just select the diffuse map of the butterfly, press Shift D to duplicate it. Right now, these two are exactly the same texture. Any changes that we do here will be applied here as well. So for example, if we change the color space to non-color, you will see that it will be changed here as well. To prevent that from happening, we just need to click this number here, which indicates the number of users. Right now there are 3 users for this exact map. So if you press this number, this map will be the exact duplicate, but it will be a different instance of it. So we can change the color space without it changing here as well. Alright? Now let's use this map to add some pump. Press Shift A, and then from vector, add in a pump node. Now connect the color to the height input and the normal to the normal of the principal BSDF. You will see now that there are some pumps in the texture, maybe a little too much. Just change the strength to around 0.1 maybe 0.3, just a little bit will be good enough. Alright, now I think we're done with texturing the model. Let's move on to rigging it. First, let's make some space, collapse these viewports and these as well to make some space. Okay, now press Shift and right click on the body here, then press Shift A and add armature, single bone. Okay, that will add the first bone in our armature. Now go to the right orthographic view by pressing 3 or by using the Alt shortcut. Okay, now select the bone and then rotate it by 90 degrees in the negative direction. So write in -90 and then scale it down and put it right here. Now to be able to see the bone from inside the mesh, you need to go to this tab here and then from viewport display, check in front. This way you will be able to see the bones at all times, even from inside the mesh. Move it in the middle of the body like that. Maybe move it back a little. Press tab to go to edit mode. Select this vertex of the bone. Then press E to extrude another bone from it. Then Y to lock it on the Y axis and move it like that. This will be the head bone. Select the vertex at the other end of the bone and then press E. Let's look from the top. Make sure that it's matching with how the mesh is created. So move it on the X axis a little. Let's add more bones for these parts. Press Shift and right click to put the 3D cursor here. While you are in edit mode in the armature, press Shift A and that will add a new bone at the location of the 3D cursor. Go to the right side, rotate it. Then start extruding a few more bones along this part. Press E again. Okay, select this bone, press Shift and select the other bones. Press Shift D to duplicate it for the other side. Select this vertex and start matching them up with how the mesh is going. Okay, let's add a few bones for the leg. Press Shift and right click here, then press Shift A to add a new bone. Go to the right side. I'll be doing the same thing I did with these parts for the legs, so I'll fast forward this part. Just go around the model while you are extruding out these bones to make sure that these bones are inside the mesh. If you want to check out if it's inside the mesh, just uncheck in front and that will give you an idea to where the bone actually is. Okay, just toggle it on again and continue extruding out the rest of the leg. You could also press Ctrl M to mirror it and then press X to mirror it on the X axis like that. Okay, I think the legs are done. Let's move on to the wings. Press Shift and right click to put the 3D cursor on the wings. Press Shift A to add a bone for it. Scale it down and put it at the beginning of the wing right here. Okay, now press Shift D to duplicate it for the lower wings. Press Y to lock it on the Y axis and put it right here. Okay, for these two bones, we need to mirror them to the other side. So when we move these two bones, the others will move with it. So the wings will be animated together. So to do that, we first need to rename these bones. So go to this tab here, rename this bone upper wing dot R and then the lower wing dot R. Now select these two bones, press right click and then choose symmetrize. That will symmetrize these two bones to the other side. If you select this bone and go to this tab, you will notice that the name have changed from .R to .L. Now while I'm doing this, I noticed that the alpha channel here on this texture is showing a little because we changed the blend mode from alpha clip to alpha blend. Alpha clip just clips the alpha channel completely. Alpha blend apparently uses another method and the alpha channel. So I'll just fix that by going to the UV editor and going to this wing, press tab to go to edit mode. Okay, choose the texture here and just select this vertex and move it to the wing like that. Now let's return to rigging. Let's move these up a little. Okay, I think we're ready to attach the mesh to the armature, but first we need to apply the rotation and scale on all the parts of this model to make sure that it will attach properly to the armature. So first, select the armature, press H to hide it, select all the parts of the model. Alright, now press Ctrl A and choose rotation and scale. That should return everything to their default state. Now press Alt H to bring back the armature. First, let's attach the wings to these bones. So first, select the armature, press Ctrl Tab to go to pose mode, or from here, switch from object mode to pose mode. Now, if you try to select the mesh, you will see that you are not able to select the mesh while you are in pose mode. That's because we have from edit here, lock object modes enabled. That prevents us from selecting any other mesh while we are in anything but the object mode. So we have to go to object mode first to be able to select the other meshes. But we can just disable this lock object mode here, and that will enable us to select the wings while we are in pose mode here. Let's first apply the rotation and scale for the armature as well. So go to object mode by pressing Ctrl Tab, then press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. Alright, return to pose mode by pressing Ctrl Tab again, then select the wing, press Shift, then select this bone, press Ctrl P, that will get you the parent menu, then choose bone, and that will parent the wing to the bone. Now if we try to move the bone like that, you will see it will be controlling the wing. Let's attach the other wings to their bones. Select this wing, then Shift, then select this bone. Press Ctrl P, then choose bone. I'll do the same thing for the other two. Make sure that the bone you are parenting to is the active bone. Press Ctrl P, then choose bone. Now let's try to attach the body to the armature as well. Press Ctrl Tab, that should get you to object mode. Select the body, then Shift, select the whole armature like that. We want the bones of the armature to be able to deform the body and not just control it like with the wings. So we are going to use another method to parent the body to the armature. If you press Ctrl P, you will see other options to parent to instead of just bone. You will see here armature deform, and below it there are 3 options. I normally use with automatic weights, and that should apply weights for the bones automatically. The weights mean the amount of influence each bone will have on the mesh. It normally works well, but before we click it, we first need to make sure which bones will actually contribute to the deformation of the mesh. So if you select the armature and press tab, you will go to edit mode. If you select one of the bones and then went to this tab, you will see here a checkbox beside deform. This means that this bone will be able to deform the mesh. So right now we don't want these 4 bones to deform the mesh. We only want them to control the wings. All the other bones should be able to deform the mesh, the legs, and these 2 parts. So uncheck deform for this bone. If you want to disable deform for multiple bones at the same time, select all of them. Then press Alt, hold it, then uncheck it. You will see that it will uncheck it for all of them. Now go back to object mode by pressing Ctrl Tab, select the body, Shift, select the armature. Now press Ctrl P and choose with automatic weights. Okay, let's check that out. Press Ctrl Tab to go to pose mode. Select this bone, for example, and try to move it. You will see now that this bone is controlling the head of the butterfly. You will see that these 2 parts is not moving with it. Press Ctrl Tab to go to object mode. Press Tab to go to edit mode. Select these 2 bones while holding Shift. Select this bone. Make sure that this is the last bone selected. Press Ctrl P and then make parent. Choose keep offset. That should parent these 2 bones to the head bone. So when the head bone moves, these 2 bones will move with it. Alright, let's try that. Go to pose mode, select this bone and try to move it. Right now it's moving it. Next, let's try and attach these 2 parts to their bones. Select this part, Shift, select the armature, Ctrl P with automatic weights. Select the armature to test it, Ctrl Tab, select this bone, try to move it. You will see that it's now controlling this part. If you found that it's not moving correctly like that, this problem often arises when the object has been mirrored. If you remember, this part was mirrored from this one. So to fix it, select the object, press tab to go to edit mode, press A to select everything, then press Shift N, and that should recalculate the normals, which means that all the faces will be facing outwards instead of facing inwards. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can just from here select this drop down, and down there you'll see normals. Enable this one to display the normals. You will see these lines appear. Right now all the normals are facing outwards because we have recalculated the normals, but if you press inside from here, you will see that the faces will look inwards. Some meshes have this problem and it makes problems while we are trying to attach it to the bones. So make sure that all the normals are facing outwards by using the shortcut Shift N. Right now, let's go back to the armature. Press A, press Alt R to reset the rotation. Press Ctrl Tab to go to object mode. Select this part again. Press Shift, then select the armature. Press Ctrl P. And let's attach it again with automatic weights. Alright, let's test that out. Go back to pose mode. Select this part and try to move it. You'll see that it's now moving correctly without any problem. Okay, perfect. Let's do the same thing for the other side. I will continue doing the same thing for the legs. So I will fast forward this part. You can attach multiple meshes like that by selecting everything. Then select the armature last, press Ctrl P with automatic weights. I think that's about it for the rigging for now. In the original model that I made for this tutorial, I also added more bones for the wings right here to be able to deform the wing itself. I've seen some references for a slow motion for a butterfly, and I saw that the wings are bending a little, so I was able to achieve that by adding more bones in this area. But I think that will take a very long time, and I think the tutorial has gone long enough. If you still want to see how to do it, you can download the model from BlenderKit or from Patreon. You'll see the full rig for this model. Let me know in the comment section below if you still want to see the full rigging tutorial for this butterfly. Anyway, for now, let's try to animate this rig and create a simple animation for this butterfly flying. Go to the corner here, split the viewport into two parts, switch this one to dope sheet. Let's hide the references, we don't need it anymore. Select them both, then press H. Select the armature and go to the right orthographic. Let's rotate it a little, like that. Okay, I think that's a good starting position for the butterfly. Select the armature, press Ctrl Tab to go to pose mode. Select these two bones and check this option. If you enable it and try to move the bones, you'll see that the mirrored bones will be moving with them. Let's rotate the bones to their starting position. Press R, then Z. Press Z one more time. You'll see that it's now rotating along the axis of the bones. You might have different axes than mine, but I think you will have the same axis if you have followed along with the tutorial. If not, just try to see which axis will be working for you and will give you this result. Alright, so put it around here. Okay, press I and that will get you the insert keyframe menu and choose location, rotation, scale. That will add a for the right upper wing and the right lower wing. You will see that the left wings does not have keyframes yet, so you have to select them both and add keyframes for them as well. There's a way to make this easier. If you go here and check this toggle, auto keying, that will let you add keyframes to all the bones that are moving. If we went to frame 13 for example and rotate it again on the Z axis like that and go it all the way down there, you'll see it added a keyframe for all the bones without having to press I manually. Alright, let's go to frame 25 and duplicate these keyframes again on frame 25. So select this keyframe and then press Shift D to duplicate it and put it right here. Now you'll see that the wings are flapping. Let's make this a looping animation. To do that, let's change the end frame from 250 to 24, just a frame before the last keyframe here. So when the animation reaches frame 24, it will return to the first pose and start the animation again without playing the duplicate keyframe again. So let's try to play the animation. Okay, I think the first pose needs the wings to be a little bit higher. So let's get to the first frame. Select these two bones. Make sure you have auto keying on. Press R, Z 2 times and rotate it more like that. Make sure to take this keyframe, duplicate it on frame 25. let's add more to this animation. So maybe at frame 13, the head will be tilting down a little. Go to the right orthographic view, rotate this one like that, and rotate the tail as well, like that. Also maybe rotate these two parts, like that. As you can see, all the rotation that I've done right now have been stored in the keyframes because I have auto keying on. So everything has been recorded. Okay, let's go to frame 1 and change the poses for these bones as well. Let's try and select the first keyframe and duplicate everything to frame 25. Let's watch the animation now. Okay, let's add some keyframes for the leg bones as well. Let's maybe use the pose that they are in right now. So select these bones, the first one in the bone chain, then press I and add a location rotation scale right here. And then at frame 13, let's select them, rotate them like that, make them close like that. Now select the first keyframe here, duplicate everything again to frame 25 so that the legs are moving as well. Okay, let's watch the animation. It's a very simple animation, but I think it's looking okay. Let's try and quickly render out this butterfly. So first up, let's press Ctrl Tab to go to object mode, press Shift A and then from light, select sun, add the sun right here, press Z and go to rendered view. Alright, now change the strength to 5. I think now that we are in rendered view, the pump that we have made for the texture is a little too much. So let's go to the shader editor one more time and just reduce the pump a little to maybe 0.1. Oh, and I forgot the auto keying on. So the sun has got a keyframe as well. So make sure that when you're done animating the rig to toggle off the auto keying so that you don't accidentally add keyframes to your animation. If you did that, just select the keyframe and press X and delete it. Let's increase the intensity of the sun a little bit more. Maybe make it 10. Press Shift A and add in a camera. Move it like that, then press 0 on your numpad to go to the camera view, or from view, camera, select active camera, and that will get you to the camera view as well. Press N to get the side panel, and then from view, check beside camera to view, and that will lock the camera to the view. Now when you move with your mouse, the camera will be moving with you. Okay, adjust the camera to the position that you want. Let's play the animation. You can also press Ctrl, and with your scroll mouse button, you will be able to zoom in and out easier. Let's go to the render tab here and then go to the film options down there and make sure you have transparent turned on. By default it's turned off. When you render out the animation, you will render out on the gray background right here. If you checked the transparent box right here, the render will be rendered out on an alpha channel and you will be able to place the butterfly on top of anything that you want. With that done, let's go to this tab and check out the resolution. And also in the output settings here, this is where the rendered frame will be going to. So press here and choose where you want to save the frames. Let's make a folder. Then press accept. Press Ctrl F12 to start the animation, or from render, render animation. Now that the render is done, you can use this sequence and place it on top of your videos or anything else. That's it for this part. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so it can reach more people. If you'd like to see more of this content, consider subscribing and also hit the bell icon to get notified as soon as new videos gets uploaded. I'm eagerly waiting for your 3D models requests in the comment section below for the next part of this series. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.